$150,000 after closing. Here is the story you guys all want to hear. So, as you know, I was a pretty successful reverse mortgage lender for many, many years. And most of my business was out of California. And as a reverse mortgage professional, I dealt with seniors over the age of 62. A lot of them were 60, 55 as well, because we were able to get proprietary reverse mortgages for people that were of age, that were 55 as well. And but the majority was 62 plus. You know, we had our people in our late 60s, 70s. A reverse mortgage is typically for someone that's like in their, like, I would say late 60s, early 70s, looking for either additional cash. Maybe they're in a bind. Maybe their loved one has passed away, so their fixed income currently is lower. Maybe they somehow lost the money, borrowed money for the kids. The kids never paid them back, and now they're not able to make their mortgage payments, or they need money for a living, or something happened to them health wise, and so on and so on. There's just so many different reasons why somebody would want a reverse mortgage. But this story specifically sticks to me because she was such a beautiful soul. And one of my top loan officers at the time that was working with me, um, I was able to get in touch with her, and we were refinancing her existing reverse mortgage. So the nice thing with California is everybody hates on California, but California appreciation values are the craziest. I mean, we're talking about sometimes I've had appraisals that were 50 to 70% higher from year over year. I know it's crazy, but that's just California for you in some areas. And we met this very, very sweet older lady. She was in her 70s, and she was eligible for a lot of money for refinancing her reverse mortgage, and she was so happy to get it. And she was living in Laguna Beach. As you know, Laguna Beach is a very affluent area in California, in Orange County. She literally lived like steps from the water. Home was worth probably, I would say anywhere from three of around $4 million. And so we started this process with her, and we get the process going. And over the process, she's kind of like telling us, hey, like, why is this taking so long? Why is this taking so long? And normally a reverse mortgage, when you go to a regular lender, they typically it'll take at least like 40, I would say about 40 days. And the reason being is California has this thing called the cooling off period. And the cooling off period is when you do your reverse mortgage counseling. So let me explain to you what that is. Reverse mortgage counseling is when you actually have paperwork in front of you, and you have a packet, and there's counselors that you have to call. And what it is, it's a 1 hour phone call with a counselor. They're typically nonprofit organizations that are able to do counseling services for reverse mortgage borrowers. And so once you do the 1 hour conversation, you get what's called a HECM counseling certificate. And that allows the lender to go ahead and start the process for you. But in California, they have what's called a 7-day cooling off period. And with that cooling off period, you cannot start any services. You cannot render any services until 7 days. So it puts us back behind about 7 days always in California, which is not a big deal. But we're getting closer and closer to the closing. And she is getting roughly anywhere from 250,000 or more at closing. I think she got anywhere from 250 to 300, because we also covered all the closing costs when we were refinancing these reverse mortgages for people and getting them additional cash because they were eligible, because the prices were just going so crazy. Then of course, you guys know, with COVID, like, the prices skyrocketed, right? So people were just refinancing, taking money out. But the beautiful thing is, for these seniors, like, they work so hard all these years to purchase these homes. And these people bought these houses back in, like, 1978, for like $30,000, $80,000. And now, all these years later, it's worth millions, right? They just made a very smart choice, or it was just the luck of the draw where they bought it, or where they bought it. And so we're getting closer to a closing. We say, hey, we got it clear to close. We're going to close on this loan. And she's like, okay, well, when are we closing? When are we closing? And there was a couple of delays here and there because the title had to run some numbers and make sure numbers are finalized. So we finally closed, and we closed on the loan. And she went ahead and she received this massive wire of like over $250,000, right? She hasn't seen that much money in her bank account for a very long time. And so for us, because it was such a big loan, our payday was massive as well. So our payday, that was the biggest check we've ever received at the company at that time, was a $75,000 check for originating this reverse mortgage. And my loan officer was extremely excited because he was getting a good portion of that check. And he was going to have his best year ever that year, not just from that reverse mortgage, but just overall great guy, very hardworking. One of those old school sales guys, like, but I'm talking about, he's got the radio voice, he's got everything. So shout out to Wes, if you're gonna watch this, you know who I'm talking about, man. You were my guy when we were doing our thing with reverse mortgages. So what happens is she calls us. But actually, before that, because we're so happy for her, Wes lives in California, I would say about 2 hours from Laguna Beach, and so he takes a drive out there and meets with her, and has lunch with her, and this all happens right before the closing, just so he puts a face to his name, and just kind of sat down with her. She brought some of her friends to lunch, I think, at that point too, so maybe he got some referrals out of that. But that's how we were doing things. We were just so grateful, with God blessing us with so many opportunities. We had such a great system down, and we were making such good money that it was almost like where is all this coming from, like we have all these customers, they love us, like we have these systems down, these processes down, we have a great team, like everything was in place, and we get this dreadful phone call, and she calls us, and she calls Wes, and she's like, Wes, how do I reverse this reverse mortgage? Wes is like, what do you mean reverse it? You just got over $250,000 in your bank account, and you have no monthly payments or anything. What do you mean reverse it? And she was so embarrassed, but she told him the truth. She said, Wes, I've been speaking with a gentleman through the internet, by email, I believe also by messenger, from Nigeria. And they were promising me millions of dollars if I would send in a certain amount of money into this account. It was one of those emails where, there's a prince that has all these millions of dollars locked up somewhere in some sort of vault, and he needs all this money to open up this vault or room or whatever it is. I'm sure you guys have seen those emails. I get them on the daily, right? Now Gmail, Yahoo, they're all better at like putting them in the junk folder. But before, it was so rampant, and I know a lot of people got caught up in the scam. And I couldn't believe that she did, because she was hiding this scam from us for such a long time. She never once mentioned, hey, I'm going to be using this money for this, because it's almost like you don't want to ask somebody, hey, what are you going to be using this money for? We did ask, but I know when Wes was asking, she wasn't very open to it. I think she was getting aggravated for him even asking her that question, because technically it's none of our business. But when you're dealing with seniors, you want to make sure that there's no elderly abuse going on, either by a family member or a friend or a neighbor, or somebody like, in Nigeria trying to scam people, right? And so This has nothing to do with ethnicity or culture, or anything like that, except the Nigerian are very prevalent scams with these emails. So I'm not going to sit here and try to be politically correct, because that would not be fair to you guys, and that would not be fair to this podcast. And so she wired this gentleman all of the money, down to the penny. And I just couldn't fathom. I couldn't fathom what she did. And it kind of took me back that somebody so beautiful, such a beautiful soul, can fall for this, can fall for something that is just so good to be true. Like, I'm going to give you $10 million if you give me 200,000, so I can pay off this banker, so I can pay off this lien, and now I have access to all this money. And also by email, pretending to be a prince or a king in Nigeria. And so, my friends, even the best of us fall sometimes because of things like that. And to this day, I don't know if she is really good mentally, but I think her kids found out too about what she did with everything, because obviously that money would have went to them if she passed away. And I just wish I wish I knew, or Wes knew, or one of us knew, that so we can stop this from happening, because it is so much money. It is so hard to save, a $250,000 or make $250,000, let alone, get it from your equity, from your property. Luckily she did everything at the best time, because the prices were high. And luckily, with reverse mortgages, she has no payments, so that doesn't affect her at all in her life and her expenses, because she has literally no payments. Can you believe if that was a regular refinance and she had mortgage payments? She would have lost the house, because she couldn't be able to afford the payments. And so, the moral of the story is, if you're about to do something like that, please reach out to someone, whether it's a family member or a friend, or if you get an email that's too good to be true, if you get a phone call that's too good to be true, if you get a phone call from one of those people that are trying to pretend they're from Microsoft, or you get a weird text message saying from the IRS that you owe the IRS money, or if you get a text message from some saying that it's the FBI, you're under investigation for something, you have to pay for something, or if you have one of those other scammers from these other countries that are telling you to go to Walmart and get a gift card and then send them over this because you're going to get $2,000, please, for the love of God, if it sounds too good to be true, it most likely is. There is nothing free in this world, and there are demonic individuals in this world preying on people. There are call centers in these third world countries, that just prey on Americans on a daily basis through email and calling, and they wipe them out every single day. People get their entire accounts wiped out every single day. We don't talk about this too much, especially with elders, but the elderly are getting scammed on the daily. There's so many scams going around. I cannot believe that these emails even get to these people's inboxes. Shame on these big providers for even allowing that, knowing that we have AI, knowing that an email clearly states, I'm a Nigerian prince, and if you wire me $10,000, I will give you $2 million. Like, please, just stop it. Just stop with this. Be mindful of yourself. Be mindful of your loved ones and your family, because listen, the only way to get somewhere in life is by hard work, by luck, or inheritance. That's basically it, right? Or if you marry rich, right? If you marry into a wealthy family. Anything else, is going to be most likely 99% is most likely going to be a scam. And when I say there's literally companies set up in these countries that call and prey on Americans, like, I'm not joking. Look into this. They proudly sit there and they ring gongs when they scam people out of thousands of dollars or out of sometimes millions of dollars on a daily basis. They have goals like me and you have goals every single day for our businesses. They have goals to how many people have I scammed today, you know? So the reason I'm telling you the story today is because for some reason it came to my mind, because everything was so perfect with that loan. Like, everything was just so in line. Like, everybody was just so happy. Like, we were happy because we were helping her, getting her so much money. We were making the highest commission we've ever made, on a deal. She was happy because she was going to use this money for the rest of her life to be able to live off of. I mean, and she had no bills. I mean, in the reverse mortgage, you have no bills either. You have the mortgage payments. The only payments you have are your taxes, your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance, and you have to just maintain the property. So if you're listening to this right now and you have a parent or someone in your family or a neighbor that you want to help out, that you see struggling because they're on a fixed income, maybe their spouse has passed away, so their social security is lower, or their pension was taken away, or they ended up with an unfortunate circumstance, or they needed assisted living or full-time care. A reverse mortgage is really a great vehicle for somebody if used properly. Now, notice what I just said: if used properly. So, yeah, I mean, it's a shame. It's the only time I've heard somebody ever getting scammed like that for so much money that I was helping at the time. And being a real estate investor right now, guys, you have to be careful. There are every single day there are emails going out. They randomly send out emails not knowing that somebody's buying a house, but these are title scams. They tell you, if you're buying a house, you get a random email saying your loan is clear to close. Please wire the funds to so and so company. That is a scam. If you wire those funds to so and so company without first calling and verifying with your real estate agent, with your loan officer, with the actual title company that you're working with, that money is gone. You will lose all of your money. I promise you. You will never get it back ever again. So if you're purchasing a house right now and you're in the process of buying a house and you get a random email, okay? The way to spot these emails is when you look at the actual email address, it never has like at the actual title company. It has always something weird because they don't own the domain, okay? So you're going to see something like really weird, like Marissa at um, somewhat title, but then they'll put like a little uh, more words at the end, which don't correlate with the name of the title company. So if you're getting these emails, please, even in my email signature, I say beware of title scams. Okay, because these emails are very prevalent in the United States, and these are people that they typically go to banks with fake documentation. They open up accounts. Once that scam is completed, they wire the money into a different account. They close out the account, or they go and take the cash out, and they're out. And there's no way to find them because they came into the bank with fake documentation. I used to work at a bank, so we used to turn away a lot of people. There was so many times where when we would open up an account, it would let us know that this could be possible fraud. We would have to bring our manager in. They would take a look at the IDs and they would say, no, I'm sorry, we cannot open the account. I cannot tell you how many times people got crazy at us. I'm talking about flipping out. Like, what do you mean you can't open up the account? This is me. Like, open up the account right now. And they would demand it. And we would even call a special fraud back office, and they would say, yes, we cannot open up this account. So, there's just, man, there's just so many ruthless people out there. It makes me so upset and mad that people can do this to another human being, knowing that it could destroy them, not only financially, but mentally, for the rest of their lives. I mean, can you imagine losing $250,000 to someone in another country, just because you were too gullible, and you believe somebody too much, or you didn't do your research, or you acted impulsively, So you have to be careful with this stuff. I'm telling you, it's prevalent, it's going around. People, you will get these random emails, so be very, very careful. So, with that being said, I appreciate you guys for being here with me on the Creative Mike podcast. My name is Creative Mike. As you know, I am a full-time real estate investor. I'm also a wholesaler. I'm also a Morby Method specialist. And if you are a wholesaler and you're looking for transactional lending, there's nothing better than creativefunds.com. Or if you're a buyer, you're looking for transactional lending, whether it's for a double closing, whether it's going to be for a Morby Method, creativefunds.com with a K is where you're going to want to go. So that's creativefunds.com, creativefunds.com. So please, if you want to work with somebody that has integrity, a company like that, I do all my business with them. I do have a partnership with them. So I do all of my deals through them as well. Okay. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for following me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to my podcast. Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel, my TikTok, my Instagram. There's like so many social media platforms that are out there, and we all have to just keep like trying to grow each and one of our social media platforms. But please, I'm going to leave you with these words. Just be very careful. Be cognizant of what you're doing on a daily basis, because it could either make you or it can break you. My name is Creative Mike. Thank you so much. Hope you have a blessed day. Thank you.